Well, it looked like Caitlin Clark is standing up for herself and letting her presence be felt very, very strong. Caitlin Clark has declined to take part in a three-point contest. But to me, this is a strong signal to the WNBA that Caitlin Clark ain't rocking with y'all. And I don't think any Indiana Fever players.
I mean, they banned this girl's meme, banned her point, her emote. Banned it from other companies that the WNBA are partnered with. Banned it from being used, man. This is crazy work.
Caitlin Clark declined. Aaliyah Boston, not invited. Perhaps the biggest miss of them all, the viral sensation, the second biggest name in the WNBA, the point princess herself, Sophie Cunningham, who's among the top 5 in three-point percentage from three-point range. Sophie Cunningham doesn't even get an invite to the three-point contest.
What if the biggest controversy of WNBA All-Star Weekend had nothing to do with the three-point contest itself? Just when fans expected Caitlin Clark to light up the court, she reportedly stepped away, and suddenly everyone started asking the same question. Was this really about an injury? Or was something happening behind the scenes after Sophie Cunningham's absence sparked outrage? If that's true, what was the league trying to avoid, and what happens next?
We thought it was done. Just when we thought enough records were broken for the day. Not only does USA get record-breaking viewership and ratings, CBS, come on down. We're going to break some records for you and raise your viewership ratings as well as only the GOAT, Caitlin Clark, can do. CBS receiving their highest rated WNBA game throughout the entire season at the hands of Caitlin Clark. Meanwhile, the WNBA got shoved the middle finger from Caitlin.
The timing could not have been worse for the league. After spending the last 2 years watching Caitlin Clark become the biggest attraction women's basketball has seen in decades, the WNBA was hoping the three-point contest would become another must-watch event.
I've been telling you guys for years, this dump of a league is allergic to profit. I've been telling you guys for years, the WNBA operates as a charity, not a business. You see, when you operate as a charity, your mentality is completely different. Charities are concerned about feelings. Charities are focused on emotion. Charities prioritize things like friendship, unity, caring.
Instead, the headline quickly shifted from who's competing to who's missing. And that is never the kind of conversation a league wants leading into one of its showcase weekends. The biggest name on the invitation list said no. The second largest conversation centered on someone who never even received an invitation.
Player of the Week honors. It's the second time this season, the fifth time in her career. And you heard what I just played there. Her desire is to make her team great. Her desire is always focused on winning, on her team, on the fans. She always brings the fans in there. And she gets Player of the Week honors. Now, here's the main thing. Player of the Week.
That is where Sophie Cunningham entered the story. For many fans, Sophie's omission was baffling. She has been one of the league's most efficient three-point shooters this season, sitting near the top of the percentage rankings while also becoming one of the WNBA's fastest-growing personalities.
The reason I like Caitlin Clark, or the reason I can support Caitlin Clark, is because it's not about race. Who cares that I'm black? Who cares that she is white? It is not about race. And that's why I feel like the media, the WNBA, and just people in general has just lost the plot. This is not about race for me, and it never will be. Caitlin Clark is not the face of racism. If you've been here over the past 2 weeks, you have heard me state that plenty of times. If you are not emotionally mature enough to separate the nonsense from this woman, then it's really no conversation to have.
So when the participant list was announced and her name was nowhere to be found, fans immediately started asking the obvious question. If this contest is supposed to showcase the league's best shooters and biggest attractions, how does one of the hottest names in the sport not even get an invitation? That question only became louder after Caitlin Clark declined her invitation. Now, to be fair, there are several possible reasons Caitlin chose not to participate. She has dealt with injuries throughout the season, and preserving her health before the second half of the year is a perfectly reasonable explanation. Even some analysts who follow the Fever closely have suggested that managing her workload may have been the biggest factor. But that did not stop the internet from creating its own theories. Fans began connecting dots that may or may not actually be connected. They pointed to Sophie's absence from the contest. They pointed to recent frustrations surrounding how Caitlin has been officiated. They pointed to moments throughout the season where they felt the league failed to capitalize on, or adequately protect, its biggest star. Whether those conclusions are correct is another debate entirely, but the perception itself became part of the story. That is the challenge the WNBA continues to face. When millions of fans already believe Caitlin Clark has not always been treated fairly, every controversial decision becomes fuel for another round of debate. Suddenly, every omission, every officiating controversy, and every marketing decision is viewed through that same lens.
2026 3-point participants: Ryan Howard, Marina Mabrey, AZ Flood, Bridget Carlton, Natisha Heidemann, and Janelle Saloon. As Casey at Behind the Line would say, who, and who? Ryan Howard, Marina Mabrey, AZ. There's like no actual superstar name in.
Then came another controversy involving Sophie Cunningham. Her now famous pointing celebration, which had become a viral meme among basketball fans online, reportedly drew league attention and restrictions on its use in certain promotional settings. Regardless of how people felt about the celebration itself, many fans saw it as another example of the league appearing uncomfortable whenever one of its fastest-growing personalities generated attention in an unconventional way. Ironically, the very moments that spread across social media for free are often the moments leagues spend millions of dollars trying to manufacture. That irony was impossible to ignore because professional sports today are no longer driven solely by statistics, championships, or highlight reels. Caitlin Clark has become one of those rare athletes whose presence alone can transform an ordinary matchup into a national event, while Sophie Cunningham has built a reputation as one of the league's most recognizable personalities by embracing her individuality and creating moments that fans genuinely enjoy discussing. For that reason, many fans believed the league missed a significant promotional opportunity.
I'll tell you why the Indiana Fever right now is America's team. Let me count the ways. Well, Caitlin Clark, okay? Love her or not, you have to admire her. She's incredible. She just came off this record-setting weekend, back-to-back games, 45 points, 10 assists, the whole thing, this number of steals, 4 steals, 2 blocks, like only 5 players, WNBA and NBA. She's the only WNBA player to do it. She continues to break.
Instead of creating an event centered around some of its most talked about stars, the conversation quickly shifted toward the players who were absent and the questions surrounding their absence. Whether those criticisms are entirely fair or not, the fact remains that the discussion surrounding the 3-point contest became dominated by controversy rather than anticipation, which is rarely the outcome any professional league hopes to achieve during one of its showcase weekends. That is precisely why many fans interpreted Caitlin Clark's decision to decline the 3-point contest as something much larger than simply choosing not to participate in a shooting competition. From their perspective, the decision represented a reminder that the league's biggest stars also possess considerable influence. Most players have happily accepted that responsibility over the years because they understand that growing the sport benefits everyone involved. When players believe that a relationship is healthy, accepting invitations to promotional events becomes an easy decision. When questions begin to arise about how they are being treated, those same decisions become far more complicated, and fans inevitably begin searching for deeper meaning behind every choice they make.
Alexa Philippou ended up dropping the news right here. So first she tweeted this. The WNBA has announced the 6 participants for Friday's 3-point contest, right? And these are the names. AZ Fudd, Marina Mabry, Ryan Howard, Natisha Heidemann, Janelle Salon, Bridget Carrollton. All right, so those are the 6 shooters that are going to be in the 3-point contest. And people lost their mind on it, man. They said, hold on, man, are you kidding me? Did y'all forget Caitlin Clark is in this league? Like, what's going on?
Of course, only Caitlin Clark truly knows every factor that influenced her decision, and it would be unfair to claim otherwise. Health considerations, workload management, or personal priorities may all have contributed to her choice, and those remain perfectly reasonable possibilities. Nevertheless, regardless of the exact motivation, the outcome itself remained impossible to overlook. The league's most recognizable attraction was no longer part of one of its biggest All-Star Weekend events, leaving many fans disappointed that they would not get the opportunity to watch one of basketball's greatest long-range shooters compete on one of the sport's brightest stages. As a result, the spotlight quickly shifted away from the athletes who accepted invitations and toward the names that were missing from the competition. Instead of debating who would emerge victorious in the contest, much of the basketball world found itself discussing Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and the broader questions surrounding the selection process. That may ultimately become the most memorable lesson from this entire situation, because in modern sports, the biggest story is not always created by the athletes who appear on the court. Will the relationship between the league and its most recognizable faces become stronger? Or has this latest controversy simply added another chapter to an ongoing debate that refuses to disappear?
CBS Sports PR and WNBA Communications. Here it says the July 18th New York Liberty versus Indiana Fever game on CBS is now the second most watched WNBA game since 2000. Since 2000, averaging 2.579 million viewers, peaking at 3 million viewers. 3 million viewers for Caitlin Clark. Who else in this league getting 3 million viewers? Is it Asia Wilson?
The conversation becomes even more fascinating when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture instead of just this one All-Star weekend. The WNBA has never had more attention than it has right now, and a huge part of that attention has followed Caitlin Clark wherever she goes. Every Fever road game has become an event. Arenas have sold out. Ticket prices have climbed. Television ratings have shattered previous expectations. Even opposing teams have acknowledged the economic boost that comes with hosting Indiana. That is not meant to diminish the incredible talent spread throughout the league, but it does illustrate the reality that one player has dramatically expanded the audience. The irony is almost impossible to ignore. The WNBA has spent years trying to convince sports fans that women's basketball deserves more mainstream attention, and that mission has made tremendous progress. Then, when the player drawing the largest television audience decides not to participate in one of the league's biggest showcases, the spotlight moves away from the event itself and onto the reasons behind her absence. If Caitlin's decision was primarily about protecting her health, that is understandable. Athletes have every right to prioritize the games that actually count toward the standings over exhibition events. Plenty of superstars across professional sports have skipped all-star competitions because they believed their bodies needed rest.
Charities aren't worried about taking advantage of opportunities to make money. They're focused on helping people, or in the case of the WNBA, making people hate this dump of a league. In business, it is extremely rare for you to be lucky enough to stumble upon a once-in-a-generation opportunity to elevate your company. 30 years ago, the WWF was blessed with an opportunity that literally came out.
But fans who have followed this season closely believe there is another layer to the story. Throughout the year, countless debates have erupted over how Caitlin has been officiated. Every hard foul has been dissected. Every missed whistle has become a trending topic. Every physical confrontation has sparked another wave of arguments online. Whether someone agrees with those criticisms or not, there is no denying that the perception exists. Again, nobody outside Caitlyn's inner circle knows her personal reasoning. However, the discussion itself reveals how much trust has eroded between portions of the fan base and the league office. Some fans interpreted that as the league trying to discourage something that had become wildly popular. Others argued that leagues routinely regulate celebrations and branding, making it less unusual than critics suggested. Regardless of where someone lands on that debate, the controversy added another layer to an already complicated week. That is a difficult combination to overcome. Imagine promoting a blockbuster movie only for two of its biggest stars to decide not to appear at the premiere. The film may still be excellent, but everyone spends the week talking about the missing celebrities instead. That is essentially what happened here.
Has led up to this. Indiana Fever players have not been getting the right calls. Players have been getting, might as well say, assaulted on the basketball court, and different various things has been happening. So if you guys have not heard the news, the WNBA made an announcement that the 3-point contest, and they listed several people that will be taking part in the 3-point contest. And with that being said, Caitlin Clark has declined to take part in it. Now, some people mad, some people ain't.
The contestants who accepted their invitations deserve tremendous credit. They earned their spots through outstanding performances and will undoubtedly put on an entertaining competition. Unfortunately for them, much of the pre-event conversation became dominated by who was absent instead of who was present. Every competitor earned the opportunity to compete on one of the league's biggest stages, yet much of the public conversation quickly drifted away from their performances and toward the names that were missing from the field. Instead of building excitement around the contest itself, social media became flooded with hypothetical scenarios, as fans imagined how different the event might have looked under other circumstances. What kind of television audience could the event have attracted if two of the league's most recognizable personalities had advanced to a dramatic final round showdown? Those questions became almost as entertaining as the competition itself because fans naturally began imagining the version of the event they believed would have generated the greatest excitement.
But to do it in the way that Caitlyn did it is really amazing. Amazing. Why amazing? Because she's been on restricted minutes. She's on limited minutes, and she still gets such an honor as player of.
One point, however, appears difficult to dispute. Whenever Caitlin Clark makes a decision, the basketball world pays close attention because her influence extends well beyond the final score of any individual game. Likewise, whenever Sophie Cunningham becomes the center of an online conversation, fans across the sport immediately notice because she has established herself as one of the league's most recognizable personalities. The fact that both players were able to dominate headlines without even stepping onto the court serves as a powerful reminder that influence in modern sports is measured not only by points, assists, or championships, but also by the ability to shape the conversation long before the opening whistle and long after the final buzzer has sounded. Sometimes the biggest victory is controlling the conversation without saying a single word. If not, every similar decision will continue to be scrutinized, compared, and debated long after the final three-pointer of this contest has been made. That is the challenge facing the WNBA now, because in the age of social media, every decision lives far longer than the event itself, and fans rarely forget the moments they felt could have been something much bigger.